All right, so welcome back to the X Factor. We are talking to this wonderful group of women. They are all voters. They feel very strongly about some very huge topics in this very big election. And so just so everybody knows, on average in recent elections, women outvote men by about 5%. So that's about between 4 to 7 million votes more than men. This is also historic for the number of women running for Congress. Historic levels. So with all that being said, we are asking this wonderful group of women how they feel about some very intense topics. We're going to start off this segment with gun control. So who did I start off with? Rachel?
Yeah, you started off.
No, Joan. Joan.
Yeah,
Let's talk. Joan, introduce yourself again to us.
Sure. My name's Joan Lipkin. I live in St. Louis City, and I actually work in the theater, and I'm a social activist. I'm very committed to what we call gun sense.
Okay.
Because in the United States, 96 people a day are killed by the use of guns. Mm-hmm. And I am not trying to take away anybody's right to carry lawfully, but I think that we need to have background checks, and people should not be allowed to carry things in public places, and they shouldn't be allowed to have assault weapons. This is an epidemic. It's actually a public health epidemic, and it's happening so much that we become inured, right? So we had the massacre at the temple in Pittsburgh, and then we had a yoga studio just a couple of days later. Oh well, it's just another day in gun crazy America.
You feel like we're a little desensitized to
I
the
think
violence?
we are.
And just for viewers who are joining us for this segment, raise your hand if you're a Democrat again. So we have the Democrats over here, Republicans, and we have a bipartisan voter there. Okay. And so tell me, what would you like to see changed when it comes to gun laws? You talked about background checks. There are background checks. Do you feel like they're not tough enough?
Mental health evaluations. I also think that, this kind of ties in a little bit to campaign finance reform, because what we see are a lot of Republicans whose campaigns are fueled by the National Rifle Association. So they're certainly not going to come out for gun sense, right? We're not saying gun control, no guns. We're saying gun sense. How many more children? When you think of the number,
I think on average there's about 7 children who are killed a day.
Eight children and teenagers are killed every day.
So 7, 8 children. I'm working on a piece that's talking about the gun violence.
Right.
And so why do you feel as though, so you voted for Claire McCaskill.
Of course.
A Democrat. Why do you feel that Republicans can't get the job done when it comes to, is it because you feel like there are ties to?
Well, I think they're funded by the NRA, and so they're. But honestly, even though I have some friends who are Republicans and I like them on a personal basis, I feel that we have different values. My values are about protecting the general good, and I feel that no child should be afraid to go to school.
So do you think there should be a ban on assault rifles?
Yes, absolutely.
I actually agree with this.
I agree with Democrats on this one.
And Tiffany again, bipartisan, right?
Right, so I do want to chime in first before everybody starts arguing on this one. I agree with Democrats on this issue. I have a concealed carry permit. I got it from the government. I took mental health background checks to receive it because I have PTSD. But I had to be cleared by the state of Virginia and the U.S. military to get me. I take concealed carry that I have. I think assault weapons should be banned.
So let me ask you this.
But I'm a single woman.
So let me just ask you this. If there was a ban on assault rifles tomorrow,
yes.
Do you hold on. If there was a ban on assault rifles tomorrow, do you feel as though we would be safer here in St. Louis? I mean, do you feel like the people who are running around with AR-15s or whatever who should not have them, do you think they would give them up?
Yeah.
No. This is legitimate. But hold on. And the reason I ask this is because I cover a lot of shootings, and I cover where people have left their guns, law-abiding citizens who have every right to have a gun, and then it gets stolen. So I'm not picking a side here, but I'm just asking, do you feel like it would really make us safer?
It would make us safer. It's not going to answer everything, but it would make us safer.
You do it as a starting point.
It's a starting point.
Okay.
You do it at the production level.
Okay.
Like you keep the companies from producing and selling the weapons, certain kinds of weapons. I support the Second Amendment. However, gun sense control is necessary with common sense measures, and you do it at the production level so that the corporation.
There's a less number of these.
Yes, doesn't even put them out into the street.
Okay.
So that the
New laws are
corporation.
the ones that the criminals are going to obey, because the criminals are going to obey the new
Okay,
laws, because
okay.
the old laws
Weren't
weren't good enough laws.
Make these weapons online.
You don't put them onto the market, so there is no need for or no possibility of them get stolen.
600 million guns that are already out there.
There are programs in place, and you implement more, and you do a comprehensive problem. None of the problems that we are discussing, are isolated. You don't isolate immigration from the U.S. policies that pull people out of their country, that push people out of their country. And when you talk about youth using guns in a way that is inappropriate, then you have to look at our education system. You have to look poverty and what we can do to remedy those. And then you take out of the child, and there are programs that Bosley put into place here in this city where he had kids playing in gyms basketball instead of on the streets with guns. You have to,
question
the
that she's
weapon,
asking is about gun control, and I understand what you're saying.
Ma'am,
In fact,
they
I
are
actually
not
agree
separated.
with you.
Hold on,
But
hold on.
I agree with you
They
on a
are
lot of
not
what you're saying.
separated.
So hold on. So what you're saying
Yes.
is the ban on assault rifles, but you feel like that needs to be coupled with other things.
Absolutely.
Okay, so
a
that's
comprehensive
so
plan.
you're saying that's a start.
Yes.
Okay, so Stacey, just
One
because we're
piece.
going into the second segment, and I want to introduce you again, host of a Christian radio show, right?
It's a political talk show on Christian radio, and
Okay.
yes, I'm a gun owner. I'm a concealed carry certified holder in the state of Missouri. I have the reciprocal with the other states that recognize our carry, and I'm trained. And I'm also a veteran. My father's in law enforcement. And this issue to me, again, it's another one where people on the right, gun owners, NRA members, are often painted as these heartless people who just want to see people die. We have blood on our hands. We're funding these politicians. Not true. Not true. Every politician receives money from interest groups, and the National Rifle Association is no different than any other interest group, and other than the fact that it represents its members as opposed to an individual lobbying organization. So
Do you feel like there should be any changes with the current gun laws?
what we have now is a problem that, as she described, is multifold. When we institute new laws to control guns, the people who abide by those are the law-abiding citizens like myself. So she's talking about disarming me. No criminal is going to turn a gun in or participate in a program that she's discussing. Criminals, by their very nature, do not obey laws, and criminals are the ones that I own and carry to protect myself against. And so the idea that, well, yeah, it's about groups, but I have to be really clear that the idea that criminals are going to just, there's a new law, we just need one more law. And I would also like, if you could,
You guys, hold on, let her.
but discussion what an assault rifle is, because an AR-15 stands for Armalite rifle. It is not an assault rifle. I'm veteran.
So how do you feel about AR-15s?
I own one.
Do you feel like
what's
that-
wrong? There are so
Okay, I'm
many
just
other
asking,
guns that
I'm
have
just
the same
asking.
capability and take the same type of ammunition. So the only thing I'm trying to find out is, if we want to ban AR-15s, what about every other long gun that has the exact same capability and takes the exact same type of ammunition? There are hundreds of them. The issue is not the specific gun. The issue is, as she said, with the heart. If a person is a criminal or they're criminally minded and they want to kill people, if you ban guns, and we already have 600 million in this country, how are you going to get those? How do you get 600 million guns off
So
the
Claire
street?
McCaskill, we helped.
It's apples to apples.
So
They're all
hold
guns.
on. We helped host a debate with Claire McCaskill and Josh Hawley, and we asked about gun laws. So one of the things Claire McCaskill had mentioned, and she said that she supports, is definitely a ban on bump stocks. How do you feel about that?
So bump stocks make guns actually less accurate. So that's not a tool I would use. That it serves no good purpose.
Okay,
We're
so
talking about if you want to make a gun from semi-automatic to automatic. There's a way to do that. There are YouTube videos about that. Bump stocks are not effective. All they do is take a gun that's accurate and
makes
make
it
it
shoot fast.
inaccurate.
Right.
But it makes it shoot inaccurately fast,
Right,
which
but-
is dangerous for the user and for everyone
Right. So you don't
nearby.
feel like this. So
I could care less about bump stocks.
Okay,
The issue
okay.
isn't bump stocks. The issue
Right.
is
Right.
who's not being reported to the national database that says, I go up, I'm Stacy Washington, here's my social, here's my info, can I get a gun? If that database isn't updated, then you have some of the mass shootings that we've seen in this country have been by people. The shooting down in Texas where he killed all those people in the church, that man should never have been able to buy a firearm, but his information wasn't updated. Again, safe storage, but you're talking about confiscation. So it's two separate issues. I'm here for defending. This is a group of women. We all have less muscle mass than men. We need to be able to defend ourselves. So it's not about whether or not. Well, I'm not carrying an AR-15.
So let me ask.
I'm not carrying.
Zena, I want to hear about.
Where you find it necessary to use a semi-automatic weapon.
All handguns except revolvers are semi-automatic
They are.
weapons.
They are classified as.
So any concealed carry firearm that's not a revolver is a semi-automatic weapon.
But
So
what situations have you encountered why you feel necessary to have a gun such of that class every day?
an AR-15 on my person?
For protection.
You can't, so you can't conceal carry an AR-15.
No.
No. What situations have you encountered? What level of fear?
She's saying you're saying that because for protection. You were
Yeah,
saying protection.
long
So you were
guns
saying,
That's the driving force.
are for home protection. So what situation have I encountered? We haven't had a home invasion.
Exactly.
Do you have
Exactly.
insurance? Do you have
Yes, I
insurance
do.
on your car?
Absolutely.
On your home? What have you encountered that required you to have insurance on your home?
I have.
So
Yes.
if
Absolutely.
you've never had a
stipulations
claim
in
on your
place that
insurance, then I
require
guess you
that.
just don't need insurance. That's
No.
so the Second Amendment is not about need.
That's
It's
not
about
good enough
the ability to
reason.
have your right to
let me
self-defense.
ask. So let me ask. The reason I ask about bump stocks, and I don't know, this is just me watching the news. It seems like that's bipartisan, like from lawmakers on both sides,
stupid.
who say, okay, you know, it makes it shoot faster. It's inaccurate. That's something that we could do away with. So that's why I was just asking you guys how you guys, Zena, what do you have to say about?
Well, I agree with Stacy when it comes to bump stocks. I actually don't own a bump stock. I am a gun owner. I have several guns. Does anyone feel threatened by me right now?
No.
Does it?
Still on your shirt is kind of
There's two of them on my shirt.
We don't know. I don't go off of looks. I don't judge.
I was actually going to ask you, so how many you
Yeah,
got?
but here's the thing
like
I'm
that.
saying
Right on me, but-
is that hold on. I'm sorry.
I said, but that's still not a valid reason to
Well,
have
hold
so
on.
many
Okay,
weapons in your home.
Here's the thing. Okay, hold on. Here's the difference between what I'm saying and what you're saying. You're thinking in terms of what you need. I exercise my Second Amendment right. I don't look at it as I need a gun or I don't need and I need and I need. I don't look at it as need. I like guns. I like shooting guns. Oh, no. Let me finish. Let me finish. I like my guns. I like shooting guns. I have taught, my husband and I, like I said, have 13 children. We have 7 sons who are all Eagle Scouts. So they all, my husband, and they all learned how to shoot. I personally taught my daughters how to shoot. And so, we would take them to the range. At 12 years old, the men in the range are stopping and looking at my 12-year-old daughter shoot, and they were like, wow, because we taught them early how to respect human life and how to handle a gun properly, and they are not afraid of them. But it has nothing to do with need. I actually just like guns. Just like you might, as beautiful as your hair is, you like to have a beautiful hairstyle. And you have beautiful shoes.
I don't buy a gun every time I buy a new pair of shoes.
But you know what, though? I buy a gun often. I have several guns, and if I see one I like, I went into the store one time.
Let me ask you, do you feel like there needs to be any changes to gun laws?
You know what? I don't, because here's the problem. The criminals will never ever give up their guns, and if they're out there to try to hurt someone, guess what? If I'm going to be disarmed, then the criminal is going to keep. Because when I remember growing up in New York, my family would always say, when you ban guns, the only people who are going to have them are the criminals and the police. Yes. And so my question is, especially in the black community, which ones do you trust? Do you, and so because everybody say they don't. So I also don't believe it's the government's responsibility to tell me what to do with protecting my own family. It's not their responsibility. If something happens with If one of my grandchildren, or if one of my, and now we're beginning to teach our grandchildren how to use guns properly. But if one of my children, get a hold of a gun and uses it improperly, that's not the government's responsibility.
Right.
It is my responsibility, and personal
liability.
responsibility.
Should be liability.
We have to get.
okay,
Hold on, wait
okay.
a minute. We have
So-
to get back to personal responsibility, and I
liability,
don't
Sam.
want anyone coming and taking and treading on my gun rights, because I have a constitutional right to keep and bear arms.
Okay.
Hold on.
Okay.
You are
For
law
any
abiding.
reason, and I don't have to do it because I need it. And as far as a situation, I had someone come up to my home one time, and he was asking me some whatever question. And I told him, I said, well, no.
You had your gun buttons on, didn't you?
No. And I said, you're trespassing. And he started coming toward my door. And I pulled out my Glock and pointed it straight at him. And I would have had no problem if he just started to charge me and try to come in and try to harm me. I would have had no problem
Okay.
shooting him
my
to
question
protect
is-
myself and my children.
My
It's a
question is,
right.
Okay,
what
but
are
hold
you-
on.
what, honestly, when you talk about your rights?
It's a right.
Okay, no. I'm.
It was something
No,
that
no, no.
Democrats don't seem
What
to
are-
understand.
What are you afraid of changing? Like, what is your like? What are you legitimately afraid the Democrats are going?
Afraid of,
Well,
it's like,
no. You said that they're like they don't have a right to change. Like, what are you legitimately afraid that the Democrats are going to do to change the system that will
know what?
affect you?
because
Because I have no problem with second. I have no problem with Second Amendment.
One of my favorite guns is one of my favorite firearms is my AR-15. I love to shoot it. It is a wonderful shooting firearm. And as when you hold it and you go to the shooting range, I love shooting my AR-15, and I don't think you or anybody else have the right to try to take it away from me. Simple as that.
So you like it
because
just for the shooting range?
I do like it.
Okay,
And
like,
guess
I'm
what?
asking.
And everybody,
So don't get mad.
Hold on.
Like,
I'm
I'm
not mad.
legitimately asking.
Hold on. And everyone I know who owns, AR-15s, which is a whole lot of people, they love their AR-15s as well. And I actually would like to have a few more. I don't want the government coming and tell me what I can do. And if I am not using my firearms illegally, then leave them alone. Simple as that.
Okay, hold on. Leslie?
So I'm a practicing attorney.
Hold on.
I have been for the last 17 years. And I just want to make this point that most criminals that are inner city kids that have these guns have stolen them from people that claim to be responsible gun owners.
They didn't lock them up.
Either stolen them or
They
bought
didn't
them
lock
off the
them
black market.
So there should be liability, owner liability. You want the responsibility. I have to insure my car. I have to insure my house. Then I need to be held responsible, legally liable. I need to insure my gun. And if I leave my gun out, and I don't lock it up properly, and a child shoots another child, or it is stolen from my glove compartment, or whatever has happened, I've left it out on my back porch, then that is my responsibility as much as it would be if my car, as it would be as much my responsibility if I gave my car to my son. I don't have an older son, but if I knew a child had a drinking problem, or a friend or a neighbor, and I said, that's okay, here, take the keys to my car, you drive on home, that would be my legal liability.
Okay.
And I think it needs to be also comprehensive in terms of your weapon. That is your responsibility, your right. And I am a Democrat, and I do support gun rights, the Second Amendment, but there has to be common sense gun control, and there also has to be liability. That responsibility isn't just, I feel good about my gun. It's if I misuse it, or if I mishandled it, or if I misstore it, then I am liable as much as I would be for anything else.
And we
Okay.
on the Republican side do not disagree with that, because we believe, and because what we normally do is we are trained. I don't just go out and buy a gun, don't know how to use it. I am trained on every single firearm that I buy.
I appreciate. I just want to say, like, this was like the first. Like, you guys are agreeing on the same thing. You guys are the same thing.
The other thing too, which I know, okay, do not get upset, Democrats. Just kind of calm down for a moment, because I'm going to say this. If the law-abiding, just wait. It's coming. It's coming. Because if the law-abiding citizens were allowed to walk in with concealed carry and I say law-abiding, anywhere and everywhere in this country, we are not going to have all those mass shootings that you have now. You're not going to have as many. See, that I told you they were going to get upset. So you're not going to have as many mass shooting because a good man, a good guy with a gun, really is a whole lot better than a bad guy with a gun.
I'm curious though.
Go ahead.
Based on what you just said.
Go ahead.
I'm curious.
The lady in purple.
My
Christina.
experience with firearms is limited to 2 news stories when I was a reporter. One with doing a concealed carry story and one with the military. So that's a hard 0 in terms of experience. Okay. I can walk into a store in Missouri and buy a gun. Should I be able to?
Yes, you should, because you have a right to, but it is also your responsibility to get training properly. Yes. And if something happens where with your gun that you have been irresponsible with, then you need to be held accountable for it.
Same thing Alex said. Look at you guys agreeing. Okay, hold on. All right, you guys, we just had this moment where you guys agree. Okay. Leslie, was there anything else that you had wanted to say?
No, yeah.
Okay, hold on.
I want to add something. It is a misrepresentation to say that a good person, a good man with a gun, is going to be able to take on somebody who's using an
I don't
assault.
remember saying those words. I said a good man with a gun can stop a bad man with a gun. But
that is not what happened in Pittsburgh.
I said can, I didn't say will, because you have a
that defensive gun use actually stops
a lot of research.
Wait, but I'm not talking about the stopped research. I'm talking about the research that already occurred, that the CDC completed, and it's the CDC is biased in their research. The Centers for Disease Control is biased.
They only can do certain research that only presents one piece of the puzzle.
That they
then the research
So it's limited to what? Did you read the CDC study on defensive gun use?
I've actually spoken a number of times on this particular topic.
What was wrong with the defensive gun use study?
The problem is that when you limit the research, which the NRA does by lobbying,
I'm talking about the defensive gun use study, not all of it.
Yeah, but you keep isolating things like there. You can take the puzzle apart and put it over here, and put immigration over there, and put all this gun stuff over here, and it's not like that. It's all together. It is a web and it is a network, and you can analytically pretend that they are separate in order to. Well, but you're separating, and the research the problem that I have with the CDC research is that it's only a little bitty piece of the puzzle because the NRA stops funding and prevents research of the whole. So if we are talking about gun control and as a health issue, that is true.
I'm going to wrap up the gun control because I want to go to. No, it's okay. I want to go to healthcare, and then when we mention and I wish I was familiar with the CDC report because you're saying this and saying that, and so without having it here, so I know. But I want to add. So I want to end, Felicity. You.
Well, I might throw everybody off here because I do respect.
And former Mayor Shrewsbury, just throwing that out there.
I do respect the Second Amendment. I think it's very important. I don't really think you can have a very good conversation about gun control unless you're really sitting down and saying, okay, A, what do we want to do about this? B, we want to do this. What do we want to do about the different things? I hear people say mental health, and we have to have those checks.
How many of you guys all agree with mental health? Is that something?
I'm not finished. I'm going to say one thing. I'm going to finish. I want to finish this because, and you're going to ask me where I got this information, and I don't really remember. It was scrolling through the internet. It might have even been the CDC. But apparently, as I understand, women receive mental health at a much larger percentage. So if that's going to be the case, and then we find out that fewer women are allowed to carry guns than men, we can't all of a sudden forget that this is what we asked for, was for this mental health background. We also have to remember there are HIPAA issues.
Right.
And what about the person who's going to make that decision about, well, you had a breakdown and now I think you're okay.
Postpartum depression.
There's, and so sometimes, so you do have tears, I know that, but you got to be very careful about what you wish for in that regard. One of the things we haven't discussed, and I might get it from both sides, I really don't know, but for some
the looks, you guys are like.
I'm not sure which way to lean, but it seems to me that we have a strange idea of reaching adulthood. If you are 18, you can do certain things, but you can't buy a beer and you can't have liquor, which actually I think is a good idea.
You can go in the military, you can kill people, you can carry a gun for this country.
Exactly.
But you can't drink a beer.
But you can't drink a beer, and then then you're waiting until you're 21 for different things.
Right.
I think the discussion, and we won't be able to have it here, is what really is a better age or a good age. Currently it's 18 typically to buy a gun. I would not be opposed personally to see it be 21, but I also wouldn't be opposed to seeing it be 21 going into the military, and 21 make any sense to me to say, go vote for the President of the United States, but you can't buy a beer. I don't know where we come up with that.
So
it's a large factor in who kills.
So there was a number of things coming out of there, right? So mental health, you're talking about. Ask this: do you feel like, because I felt like that was a beautiful moment, like, because you guys agree, and it can be done, and I feel like there was a time where we can have these discussions like we are now. But the way it's portrayed, and in different outlets, whatever, it's so intense, it's so divided, it's such an intense. But what do you think could help our lawmakers work better together? Is there something that can be done for that? Is there something?
All of us voted. Republicans that I would support, who work hard, who do not agree with me on everything, but if more Americans participated, that would make a difference, because they would hear our voices and our government would reflect our beliefs.
Did any of you guys change your thoughts on gun control or immigration reform? What? Okay.
But I do think listening is important. I do think the listening.
I do agree with her thought process.
And that goes class system, that goes race, that goes politics, that goes everything. The ability to be able to listen to other people, to say, I really want to hear what it is you have to say, and I'm trying to understand where you're coming from, is a huge step forward. And also, if we could stop saying Democrats always, Republicans always, because I think that the idea that the Republicans only believe this way and therefore I cannot support Republicans, because the second we hit that in our brain, we automatically, if we're on the Democrat side or if we're on the Republican side, the second someone says to us, but Republicans or Democrats only, then we think, I can't do it. I can't, no matter what you're saying, I can't do it.
Me. Like, I don't know how many people I have affected with change by me simply saying, I'm not picking a side. I have had so many people say, I want to hire you. I want you to be this. I want you to be that. I am not going to do that. I am me, okay? I love everyone. I'm a mediator. I'm truthful. We are one people. I have seen too much crap in my life, in this world, and I have been too many places to know that if we don't come together as a country, as people, we're doomed. We're screwed.
Well, in terms of coming together, and I'm just going to go to this one last topic.
You got to just have mediation and listening, and if you can't sit down at a table and do it,
right?
One-on-one is two. Find somebody that can mediate stuff for you.
Okay.
Let me administration that is baiting people against each other.
Oh, yes.
All right.
Well, so hold on. Let me ask you guys something, because I hear a lot of Republicans and I hear a lot of Democrats talking about with healthcare reform, and I feel like that's going to have to be a huge bipartisan effort, because there's issues that people agree that need to be changed. I'm very open about it. I have a son with autism. Occupational therapy, speech therapy, it is tough. It is tough affording that, paying for that, getting the help. So I know that's something that hits home for a lot of people.
Yes.
I'm just going to Tamika, right? So tell me, just how do you feel about healthcare reform? Do you feel like it's going in the right direction? Do you feel like there needs to be a change? I know Josh Hawley has joined, help with this lawsuit, trying to get it completely just changed. Claire McCaskill saying, well, there's not a plan here for pre-existing conditions. How do you feel?
Well, I am with Claire with that. I think Affordable Health Care Act is necessary. When you think about health care, it's a common issue. The cost itself is a common issue across the board, no matter if you're a Republican or you're a Democrat. You have people that have to choose between whether they're going to pay a copay at the doctor's office or they're going to buy groceries for the week, which is a huge concern and something that needs to be taken into consideration when it comes to health care. And there needs to be conversations around the table that include individuals from all class of backgrounds, no matter the income, okay, middle class, upper class. We all need to get down and come in and make a decision about what's important, what we need. We should not have one set of Republicans just making the decision for everyone, the society as a whole. I'm totally against that. And affordable health care is necessary.
Okay. Did you guys want to say?
I'm 40 years old and I'm on Social Security disability because of my injuries. So people look at me and they don't think that I have a say in Medicare. I walk into a room with politicians and I go, whoa, 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 wait. And they look at me and they go, what? And I go, I'm on Medicare. And they go, oh. And they give me that look like, oh. And it's like, no, I do have a say in this healthcare. I didn't understand squat about what was going on in healthcare because I had VA and Champ VA until 2015. And then all of a sudden they threw me into Social Security disability. And that was a whole new world for me.
Okay.
Luckily, my older sister works for United Healthcare, so she kind of looks out for me to make sure, you know, that I'm covered good. But it scares the crap out of me on both sides. This needs to be a bipartisan thing because this affects me too.
Oh, yeah.
And I don't quite understand it all. I still don't understand it all. So if I don't understand, this is how I look at it, is that I don't understand it at my age. How, excuse my language, but how in the hell is a 70 or 80-year-old going to understand these books? Or even that, how are they going to understand these books?
You think about, you know, how for both my parents, unfortunately, both my parents are still living.
They're
now retired. They have some form of supplemental health insurance, and then they have whatever the government provides for them. But my father is insulin dependent. And so they only will fill the prescription so many times a month. And I have watched my mother and father shell out $600 a month to keep my father in his insulin.
Right now?
And right now, currently.
So
thankfully, they're able to do that because of things that they had set up. But think about it, they have the resources. What about the man and the woman that doesn't have the resources? What about the individual that falls asleep in a diabetic coma because they don't have that? So it has become a greater issue of the haves and the have-nots. We have a healthcare system and availability for those that have money, and if you don't have money, shame on you. And think about the strategy that then adds to the children and to their grandchildren. So, you know, my parents are able to do it now, but what if they weren't? So now I'm put in a position.
So with it being as expensive as it is, do you feel like, and you know, I say healthcare reform, Obamacare, do you feel like that needs to be repealed? Do you feel like they're just need to start from?
Obamacare helped a lot of people that didn't have coverage. It helped me in a place in my life between being self-employed to being employed. It bridged the gap for me. But there has to be something else done. If I decided to step away from my job and step back into that system, those monthly premiums, I couldn't afford that as a small business owner. It is outrageous in order for a family. So I agree that there has to be a system put in place, but it has to become affordable, and it has to be such that.
So it's not affordable right now.
It's not affordable right now.
Okay, so you guys are all agreeing now. Okay. Okay.
And I would recommend that our Congress, if I understand correctly, live under their own healthcare system, that they aren't under our healthcare system. And I'd like to suggest that why don't we get the healthcare system they have? Or whatever healthcare system they put into place, they have to live under. Because as mayor, when we were talking about putting insurance into place, and things were kind of crazy at the time. Nobody exactly knew what Obamacare was going to do. But all the information that we were getting was that our insurance was going to skyrocket. We were going to have to take benefits away from our employees. Our employees were not going to have better health insurance. They were going to have less, and our taxpayers were going to just have to come up with more money. It was a significant increase. So we're talking about different things sometimes when we talk about health care reform and Obamacare. Obamacare, I'm sure it had some good things, but it really had some really difficult things as part of it. So I don't ever think that that was really ultimately the solution. I thought that was a pat on the head and, woo, we've got this insurance policy. So I think that, you know, we might just present that to both sides of the aisle and say, we'll share.
Where's the control when it comes to healthcare costs? There's a tier added each year for the healthcare. Now it was 1+ family. A single mom with a child,
Right.
or a family, and the cost for a family now, it's probably $800 a month with the premium.
So thank you guys for watching the X Factor. We are actually, this has been a great conversation. We heard from each other, and this is what we're talking about. We need to have these conversations where people have differences and we can still talk in a very civil way and discuss what means the most to us and what we want to see changed for this country. So thank you so much for joining us. Have a good night.